Today we're talking about actor Eric Dane. His recent passing at just 53 years old has really brought this incredibly powerful story of courage and purpose into the spotlight. And it's a story that, well, it really deserves to be told. And honestly, there's no better way to start than with his own words. This quote, it just perfectly captures the spirit of his final year. It sets the stage for a story that isn't just about loss, but about facing this unbelievable challenge, head on.
So the news that actor Eric Dane had passed away, it really came as a shock to so many of us. He was only 53, and it was less than a year ago that he revealed he was battling ALS, which you might know as Lou Gehrig's disease. His passing obviously leaves this huge void, but it also uncovers this really remarkable story of how he chose to live out his final days.
Okay, so before we dive into that final courageous fight, let's take a moment and remember the actor we all knew and loved on screen. I mean, for decades, this guy was a total mainstay in Hollywood.
For so many of us, right, we first met him on Grey's Anatomy. And this number, it's just astounding. 145. 145 episodes. That's how long he starred as Dr. Mark Sloan, a.k.a. McSteamy, the character that just catapulted him to global stardom. And this really shows you his incredible range as an actor, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the iconic, charming heartthrob McSteamy from Grey's, and then on the complete other end of the spectrum, the deeply troubled, really complex father, Cal Jacobs, in HBO's Euphoria. It's just a perfect testament to his evolution as an artist and, honestly, why he remains so compelling to watch.
And then came the biggest challenge he would ever face, a role he never ever auditioned for. And his diagnosis? Well, it would change absolutely everything.
So for anyone who might not be familiar, ALS is just a devastating neurodegenerative disease. It affects nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord, and it progresses with this frightening speed. In an interview, Dane actually said he would never forget hearing those three letters, ALS, for the very first time. And looking at this timeline is, wow, it's really sobering. It shows you just how unbelievably fast the disease progressed. I mean, think about it. Only 10 months ago, he went public with his diagnosis. By last June, when he sat down with Diane Sawyer, he had already lost the use of one arm and his speech was slowing down. It's just a stark, heartbreaking illustration of how devastating this disease can be. And in that same interview, he shared his biggest fear. And it wasn't about losing his career or even about himself. It was about being taken away from his family, his wife, the actress Rebecca Gehrig, and his two young daughters. His entire fight, from that point on, became about them and the time he had left. But here's where the story takes a turn. In the face of this immense personal tragedy, Eric Dane found a new, incredibly powerful public mission. He made the choice to turn his personal struggle into a public cause. And this quote says it all. He truly believed it was imperative to share his journey. He felt like his life wasn't just about him anymore. With that mindset, he became this passionate advocate for ALS awareness and for research. He used his platform, knowing his story could make a real difference for countless others going through the same fight. And his determination, it was just incredible. He was so clear that while his body was failing him, his mind and his voice were still strong. And he worked right up until the very end, totally committed to his craft and to sharing his story. So what is the legacy that Eric Dane leaves behind? It's become so clear that it extends far, far beyond the roles he played on our screens. His family's statement after he passed really brings his true legacy home. It wasn't about the fame or the awards or the roles. It was about his two beautiful daughters, Billy and Georgia. They were, in the family's own words, the center of his world. So ultimately, this is what he leaves us with. Of course, he was a fantastic actor. We all know that. But maybe more importantly, he was a devoted father, a tireless advocate for a cause that became his own, and just a profound inspiration for how to face the unthinkable with courage and with real purpose. And his story, it isn't quite over. His work is going to continue. We'll get to see him one last time in the next season of Euphoria, and a memoir he was working on is also scheduled to be released. So his voice, it will continue to be heard. Which really leaves us with this final, powerful question to think about. Eric Dane was a star for decades, right? But it was in his final, toughest role as a father and an advocate facing his own mortality that he may have made his most lasting impact of all. It really makes you wonder, how does one's final chapter truly define their legacy?